The space station called Orion Gate floated in the darkness between stars. It was a massive place, built by many alien species over thousands of years. Ships from 100 different worlds came and went every day. Creatures of all shapes and sizes walked through its wide corridors. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had too many eyes or not enough legs. This was the heart of the Galactic Union, where species met to trade and talk and pretend they liked each other. Captain Taiho stood near the large window of the docking bay, watching his ship being refueled. The vessel was called Iron Will, and it was one of the first human ships to travel this far into Union space. Humans had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago. Most aliens still did not know what to think of them. They called humans Deathworlders. Earth was a planet of high gravity, extreme weather, deadly animals, and constant danger. To the softer species of the galaxy, humans seemed like monsters. They were too strong, too fast, too adaptable. And their eyes, those forward-facing eyes of a predator, made many aliens deeply uncomfortable. Taiho did not care what they thought. He was here for a simple trade mission, and he had brought his daughter. Hannah was 8 years old. She had her mother's smile and her father's stubbornness. When Taiho told her she could come on this trip, she had screamed with joy and packed her bag in less than 10 minutes. She had never seen aliens before. She wanted to see everything right now. She was in the station's botanical garden with Dr. Sujin, the ship's medical officer. Sujin had promised to keep an eye on her while Taiho finished the paperwork. The botanical garden was beautiful. Plants from dozens of worlds grew under artificial sunlight. There were flowers that glowed blue, trees with silver leaves, vines that moved slowly, like sleeping snakes. Hannah walked through the paths with wide eyes, touching everything she was allowed to touch. Dr. Sujin walked a few steps behind, smiling at the child's wonder. She was a kind woman with steady hands and a calm voice. She had served with Taiho for 6 years and trusted him completely. He trusted her with his daughter's life. Hannah stopped in front of a strange plant with purple petals. It smelled sweet, like honey and rain. She leaned closer to smell it better. That was when she heard the clicking sound. She turned around and saw an alien standing on the path. It was tall, much taller than any human. Its body was covered in hard, dark plates like armor. It had 4 arms, each ending in sharp, curved claws. Its head was shaped like a triangle, with large black eyes that showed no warmth at all. This was a Scythian. Commander Velas's of the Scythian military. Velas's looked down at the human child with disgust. To her, humans were barely more than animals. Dangerous animals, yes, but animals nonetheless. And this small one was in her path. Hannah did not know any of this. She only saw a strange new alien. She wanted to be polite, like her father taught her. So she smiled and gave a small bow. Traditional Korean. Greeting of respect. Velissa saw the bow and felt anger rise inside her. In Scythian culture, lowering your head was a sign of challenge, threat. This tiny creature was mocking her. "You dare threaten me, Deathworlder," Velas's hissed. Her voice was sharp like breaking glass. Hannah did not understand. "I was just saying hello," she said in a small voice. But Velas's was not listening. She raised one of her arms, the one with the longest. Barbs struck downward. The blow caught Hannah across the face and chest. The barbs were sharp. They cut deep. Blood sprayed across the purple flowers. Hannah screamed. She fell to the ground, clutching her face. Blood poured between her fingers. The pain was like fire. Dr. Sujin heard the scream and ran. When she saw Hannah on the ground, bleeding, something cold and terrible filled her chest. She dropped to her knees beside the child and pressed her hands against the wounds. "Help," she shouted. "Someone help." Station security arrived within minutes. 4 officers of different species surrounded the scene. They saw the human child bleeding on the ground. They saw the Scythian commander standing over her with blood on her claws. "This creature attacked me," Velessa said calmly. "I defended myself." One of the security officers, a small fur-covered being, looked at the crying child and then at the towering Scythian. He did not believe her. But Velas's had diplomatic immunity. He could not arrest her. "Commander, please come with us," he said carefully. "We need to file a report." Velis clicked her mandibles in annoyance. "Very well, but I have done nothing wrong. Control your Deathworlders better, or this will happen again." She walked away, surrounded by Scythian guards who had appeared from nowhere. Captain Tai-Ho arrived 3 minutes later. He had been running. When he saw his daughter on the ground, covered in blood, his heart stopped. Hannah. He fell to his knees beside her. "Hannah, look at me." "Look at Appa." Hannah's eyes found his face. "Appa," she whispered. "It hurts, I know, baby. I know. You're going to be okay." He looked up at Dr. Sujin. Her face was pale, but her hands were steady. "We need to get her to the ship," Sujin said. "Now?" Tai-Ho nodded. He lifted his daughter in his arms, holding her against his chest. Her blood soaked into his uniform. He did not care as they moved toward the docking bay. Lieutenant Minho appeared beside him. Minho was Tai-Ho's second-in-command, a quiet man with cold eyes and perfect aim. "Captain, what happened?" "Who did this?" Scythian Commander Sujin answered. She claimed diplomatic immunity. Minho's jaw tightened. "What are we going to do?" Tai-Ho did not answer immediately. He kept walking, carrying his bleeding daughter through the station corridors. Aliens moved out of his way. Something in his face made them step back without thinking. Finally, as they reached the ship, Tai-Ho spoke. His voice was calm. "To calm, we're going to the council." Minho looked at his captain's eyes and felt a chill run down his spine. He had served with Tai-Ho for years. He had seen him angry before. This was not anger. This was something much worse. The medical bay of the Iron Will was small, but well equipped. Dr. Sujin had spent 3 hours working on Hannah's wounds. The cuts were deep. The Scythian barbs had torn through skin and muscle. One slash had come very close to the child's eye, but Hannah would live. She would carry scars for the rest of her life, but she would live. Tai-Ho stood outside the medical bay, staring through the small window at his sleeping daughter. His uniform was still stained with her blood. He had not changed. He had not eaten. He had not moved from that spot for hours. Lieutenant Minho approached quietly and stood beside him. "The Scythians have officially refused to hand over Commander Velis," Minho said. "They claim she acted in self-defense. They say humans should keep their children under control." Tai-Ho said nothing. "Sir, what do you want us to do?" Tai-Ho's voice came out flat and empty. "File a formal request with the Galactic Council. I want an emergency session. I want a trial." He nodded. "The Scythians are a powerful species, Captain. They have the 3rd largest fleet in the Union. The Council might not want to make them angry. I don't care what the Council wants, and if they refuse to hold a trial." Tai-Ho finally turned to look at Minho. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but there was something burning behind them. Something ancient and dangerous? Then we find another way. The news spread quickly across the station. An alien officer had attacked a human child. The Deathworlders were demanding justice. Everyone was watching to see what would happen next. In the quarters of the Scythian delegation, Commander Velis was resting comfortably. She had no fear. Her people were powerful. The humans were newcomers, barely worth noticing. The Council would never punish a Scythian officer over some Deathworlder brat. Ambassador Keth, their superior, was less confident. "Yes, you should not have struck the child," Keth said. He was older than Velis, with faded plates and cautious eyes. "Humans are unpredictable. They do not react like other species." "They are animals," Velis replied. "Strong animals, perhaps. But animals do not sit on the Council. They have no power here. They have survived on a world that should have killed them 1,000 times over. Do not underestimate them." Velicius made a dismissive clicking sound. "Let them bring their complaints to the Council. Nothing will happen. It never does." On the other side of the station, in the chambers of the Galactic Council, High Arbiter Toron was reading the human request. He was old, very old. His species lived for thousands of years, and he had seen empires rise and fall. He had seen wars that burned entire star systems. He had also seen the reports on humans. He knew what they were capable of. The council chamber was empty except for Torin and Counselor Brem, a representative of the Urania, peaceful aquatic species that had always supported fairness in the Union. The humans want a trial, Torin said slowly. The Scythians want the matter forgotten. What do you want? Brem asked. His voice was soft, like water over stones. I want peace, but I fear we will not have it either way. The child was attacked without cause. There is footage. The evidence is clear. Evidence does not always matter in politics, Brem. You know this. Then what does matter? Turan was silent for a long moment. Power, fear. The Scythians have both. The humans. Us. He paused. The humans have something else. I am not sure what to call it. Determination, Brem suggested. Or perhaps something darker. In the end, Torin agreed to the emergency session. The trial would be held in 3 station cycles. Both sides would present their cases. The council would decide. When Captain Taiho received the news, he simply nodded. Minho watched him carefully. 3 cycles, Minho said. That gives us time to prepare. Yes, Sergeant Jiho has been gathering information on Velas's. Her location, her guards, her schedule. Taiho looked at him. In case the council fails us? A ghost of something appeared on Taiho's face. It might have been a smile. It might have been something else. Good. Tell him to continue. That night, Taiho finally entered the medical bay. Hannah was awake, sitting up in the bed. Bandages covered half her face. Her eyes were tired and scared. When she saw her father, she reached for him. Appa Taiho sat on the edge of the bed and took her small hand in his. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. The bug lady hurt me, Hannah whispered. She was so mean. I just wanted to say hello.
I know.
You did nothing wrong. Is she going to come back? Is she going to hurt me again? Taiho looked at his daughter, at the bandages, at the fear in her eyes, at the small hand holding his so tightly. Something inside him hardened into stone. No, he said softly. She will never hurt anyone again. Promise? I promise. Hannah seemed to relax a little. She leaned against her father's chest. Appa, why did she hurt me? I didn't do anything. Taiho stroked her hair gently. Some people are just cruel, Hannah. They hurt others because they think they can. Because no one has ever stopped them. That's not fair. No, it's not. Will the aliens punish her? Taiho was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was very gentle. They will try, baby. And if they can't? He paused. Then I will. Hannah did not fully understand what her father meant. But she felt safe in his arms. She closed her eyes and fell asleep. Taiho held her for a long time, watching her breathe. The bandages on her face were white against her skin. The wounds beneath them would heal, but the scars would remain. He thought about Velas's. About her arrogance. About the way she had walked away without any guilt at all. He thought about the council and its politics. About how justice was often sacrificed for convenience. And he thought about the old laws, the ancient laws that most species had. Forgotten, the right of equivalent. Justice. If the council could not deliver punishment, the wronged party could seek their own. It was a brutal law from a brutal time. Most species considered it barbaric. It had not been invoked in centuries, but it had never been removed from the books. Taiho kissed his daughter's forehead and stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The universe was vast and cold and did not care about justice. But Taiho was not the universe. He was a father, and someone had hurt his child. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room on Orion Gate. It was built like an ancient arena, hundreds of seats rising in circles around a central floor. Representatives from over 200 species filled those seats. Some floated in special tanks of liquid. Some wore breathing masks. Some were so strange that human eyes could barely understand their shapes. Today every seat was full. News of the trial had spread across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when the Deathworlders demanded justice. Captain Taiho entered through the main doors. He wore his full military dress uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. His medals were polished. His boots were clean. His face showed nothing at all. Behind him walked Lieutenant Minho, Sergeant Jiho, and Dr. Sujin. They were unarmed. Weapons were not allowed in the Grand Chamber. But no one looking at them felt safe. There was something in the way humans moved. Something in the way their eyes scanned the room, noting exits and threats. Something that reminded every alien present why humans were called Deathworlders. The Scythian delegation was already seated on the opposite side of the chamber. Ambassador Keth sat in front, his old face carefully blank. Behind him, Commander Velisis stood with her arms crossed. She looked bored. High Arbiter Torin raised one of his long, thin arms. The chamber fell silent. "This session has been called to address the incident of 3 cycles past," Torin said. His voice was old and dry, like wind through dead leaves. "A human child was injured by a Scythian officer. The humans have requested formal judgment. The Scythians have agreed to present their defense. Let both sides speak." Ambassador Keth stood first. He moved slowly, deliberately. "Honored Council," he began, "this matter has been greatly exaggerated. Commander Velisis encountered a young human in the botanical garden. The child displayed aggressive behavior, a threat posture common among Deathworlders. Commander Velisis, acting on instinct and training, defended herself. The injury to the child was regrettable, but justified." Murmurs ran through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked less sure. Keth continued, "We must remember what humans are. They come from a world of extreme danger. Their young are not like the young of civilized species. Even a human child can be deadly." Commander Velisis acted appropriately. He sat down. Tejo stood. The chamber grew very quiet. "Honored Council," Tejo said. His voice was calm and clear. "My daughter is 8 years old. She weighs 25 kilograms. She has never harmed anyone in her life." He paused. She saw an alien she had never met before. She wanted to be polite, so she bowed a greeting of respect in my culture. He touched a small device on his wrist. A holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the botanical garden. It showed Hannah standing in front of Velisis. It showed the child bowing, and then it showed Velisis striking her down. The footage was clear. Hannah's small body falling, blood spraying across the flowers, her screams echoing through the garden. Several species made sounds of distress. A few turned away. "This is what Commander Velisis calls self-defense," Tejo said quietly. "A child offering respect. A warrior responding with violence." He touched his device again. New images appeared, medical scans showing the depth of Hannah's wounds. Photographs of her bandaged face. "My daughter will carry these scars forever," Tejo continued. "Not because she did anything wrong, but because Commander Velisis decided that a human child's life was worth less than her pride." He looked directly at Velisis. She met his gaze without flinching. "I am not here to ask for war," Tejo said. "I am not here to make threats. I am here to ask for justice. Simple, clear justice. Is that too much to ask from the Galactic Council?" He sat down. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then High Arbiter Torin spoke. "Commander Velisis, you will speak now." Velisis stepped forward. She showed no fear, no regret. "The human speaks of justice," she said. "But what justice do Deathworlders deserve? They are new to this galaxy. They do not understand our ways. Their children run wild in civilized spaces. If they cannot control their offspring, they should not bring them here." She looked around the chamber with contempt. "I see the way you all look at me. You think I was cruel? But I know what humans are. I have read the reports. They eat the flesh of other creatures. They have spent their entire history killing each other. They come from a world so dangerous that most species could not survive there for a single day." She clicked her mandibles. "And you want me to apologize for defending myself against one of them?" Never more murmurs. Some agreement. Some anger. Tejo stood again. "Honored Arbiter, I have one more request." Torin tilted his ancient head. "Speak." "If the Council finds Commander Velisis guilty, but fails to deliver adequate punishment, One invoked the right of equivalent justice. The chamber exploded with noise, shouts, gasps, clicking, howling. Every species reacted in their own way, but the meaning was the same. Shocked Ambassador Keth jumped to his feet. That law is ancient. It is barbaric. No civilized species would invoke it. The law still exists, Taiho replied. I have checked. It has never been removed. High Arbiter Torin raised his arm for silence. Slowly, the chamber quieted. Captain Taiho is correct, Torin said heavily. The right of equivalent justice remains valid under Union law. If the Council cannot deliver proper punishment, the wronged party may seek their own. This is madness, Keth shouted. You cannot allow a Deathworlder to. The law is the law, Toron interrupted. It applies to all species equally. That is the foundation of this council. Valises laughed. The sound was harsh and sharp. Let him invoke his ancient law, she said. Do you think I fear one human? I am a warrior of the Scythian Empire. I have killed enemies larger and stronger than any Deathworlder. She looked at Taiho with pure contempt. If he wants to face me, I will enjoy teaching him the same lesson I taught his child. The chamber was silent. Every eye watched the human captain. Taiho's expression did not change. He simply said, We will see. Torin called for a recess. The council would deliberate on the verdict. The session would resume in 6 hours. As the delegations filed out, Minho walked beside Taiho. Captain, are you sure about this? The Scythians are strong, fast, their bodies are armored. Taiho watched Velisis leave the chamber, surrounded by her guards. Do you remember what I told you when you first joined my crew, Minho? You said many things, sir. I told you that humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest. We are not the smartest. He paused. But we are the most stubborn, and we never forget. He turned to face his lieutenant. She hurt my daughter. She laughed about it. She will stand in front of this council and answer for it. His voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. And then she will learn what happens. When you make an enemy of Earth, Minho looked at his. Captain Ed felt something he rarely felt fear. Not fear of Taiho. Fear of what Taiho was about to do. And fear for anyone who stood in his way. 6 hours passed like 6 years. The grand chamber filled again. Every seat was taken. More beings crowded in the doorways and corridors, watching through screens. Across the galaxy, billions of creatures waited to see what the council would decide. Captain Taiho sat with his delegation. His face was stone. His hands were still. Commander Velisis stood with her people. She looked confident, almost amused. High Arbiter Toron entered last. He moved slowly to his place at the center of the high platform. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the chamber. The council has reached its verdict. Silence. Complete and total. In the matter of Commander Velisis and the human child known as Hannah, we find the following. The evidence clearly shows that the child posed no threat. The child's gesture was one of greeting, not aggression. Commander Velisis acted without provocation. A wave of reactions swept through the chamber. Some species nodded. Others hissed or clicked in anger. Therefore, Torin continued, Commander Velisis is found guilty of unprovoked assault on a minor. Taiho felt something loosen in his chest. Guilty. The word echoed in his mind. Guilty. But Toran was not finished. However, the council must also consider political realities. The Scythian Empire is a valued member of the Galactic Union. Commander Velisis holds a position of importance. A harsh punishment could damage relations between our peoples and threaten the stability of the Union. The looseness in Taiho's chest turned cold. Therefore, the council rules the following punishment. Commander Velisis will receive a formal reprimand on her record. Her diplomatic privileges will be suspended for 1 standard year. No further action will be taken. The chamber erupted. Some species cheered. Others shouted in protest. The Scythian delegation looked pleased. Ambassador Keth allowed himself a small smile. Counselor Brem, the Irani representative, rose from his seat. "This is not justice," he called out. "A child was nearly killed. A reprimand is nothing." "The council has spoken," Torin replied. He sounded tired, old. "The matter is no." The single word cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned to look at Captain Taiho. He was standing now. His voice was calm, but carried to every corner of the vast chamber. "The matter is not closed." "High Arbiter." Torin looked at him with something like sadness. "Captain Taiho, the council has failed to deliver adequate justice. A formal reprimand for nearly killing a child. 1 year without diplomatic privileges for leaving scars that will last a lifetime." Taiho's voice did not rise, but something in it made species across the chamber feel a deep, primal fear. One invoked the right of equivalent justice. The chamber went silent again. This time, the silence was different. Heavier, darker. Ambassador Keth stood quickly. "High Arbiter, you cannot allow this." "The Scythian Empire will not stand for the law is clear," Torin interrupted. "If the wronged party believes justice has not been served, they may invoke the right. It is their choice, not ours." He looked at Taiho. "Captain, you understand what you are doing? This right has not been invoked in over 800 years. If you proceed, you must face the accused yourself. No weapons, no assistance. Victory or death, I understand, and you still wish to proceed." "I do." Torin closed his ancient eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked at Commander Velas's. "Under the right of equivalent justice, you must face the accuser in personal combat. Do you accept, or do you yield and submit to a punishment of the council's choosing?" Velas's stepped forward. Her mandibles clicked with amusement. "I accept," she said. "I will enjoy this." The center of the chamber was cleared. Delegates pressed back against the walls, creating a wide circle of empty floor. 200 species watched as a human and a Scythian faced each other across 20 meters of cold stone. Taiho removed his formal jacket and handed it to Lieutenant Minho beneath it. He wore a simple black shirt. His body was lean but solid. Muscle built by a lifetime on a heavy-gravity world, Velas's stretched her forearms. Her carapace gleamed under the chamber lights. Each of her limbs ended in curved barbs, the same barbs that had torn his daughter's face open. "Are you ready to die, Deathworlder?" she asked. Taiho did not answer. He simply rolled his shoulders once and settled into a balanced stance. High Arbiter Torin raised his arm. "When my arm falls, you may begin." Every being in the chamber held their breath. The arm fell. Velas's moved first. She was fast, incredibly fast. Her species had evolved as ambush predators. She crossed the distance in less than a second. All 4 arms slashing toward the human's throat. But Taiho was not there. He moved sideways, just enough to let her strike pass by. One hand caught her leading arm. The other drove into the joint where the limb met her body. The crack echoed through the silent chamber. Velas's screamed a high, sharp sound that hurt the ears of many species. Her arm hung useless, broken at the joint. She spun, striking with her other 3 limbs. Fast, deadly, precise. Taiho blocked one strike, dodged another, and took the third across his shoulder. Blood appeared on his shirt. He did not seem to notice. He moved like something from a nightmare. Every alien watching understood, finally, why humans were called Deathworlders. Not because their planet was dangerous, because they were the most dangerous thing on it. Millions of years of evolution had shaped this creature. Fighting predators, surviving disasters, killing to eat, killing to live, killing anything that threatened their families. Velas's struck again and again. Each time, Taiho moved just enough. Each time he hit back. Another joint broken, another limb hanging useless, in less than 2 minutes. It was over. Velas's lay on the chamber floor, all 4 arms shattered. Her armored carapace was cracked in 3 places. She tried to rise but could not. For the first time in her life, she felt fear. True fear. Taiho stood over her, breathing hard. Blood ran from cuts on his arms and shoulder. His face was still stone. "Please," Valises whispered. The word came out broken, desperate. "I surrender. I invoke diplomatic protection. Please." Taiho knelt beside her. When he spoke, his voice was quiet. But the chamber was so silent that everyone heard. "You hurt my daughter. You laughed about it. You called her an animal?" He leaned closer. "There is no protection from a parent." No, Taiho's hands moved. Quick, efficient, final. The chamber was absolutely silent. 200 species watched as the human stood up slowly. His hands were covered in Icorsithian blood. His face showed nothing. He looked up at the assembled council. At the hundreds of delegates watching in shock and horror and awe, he said nothing. He simply took his jacket from Minho, put it on over his bloodied shirt, and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted before him like water before a stone. No one spoke. No one moved to stop him. As he passed Councillor Brim, the Irani representative nodded once. A small gesture of respect, Taiho nodded back. Then he was gone. The chamber remained silent for a long, long time. Finally, High Arbiter Torin spoke. His voice was very old, very tired. "The right of equivalent justice has been fulfilled. The matter is closed." No one disagreed. The galaxy reacted slowly at first. Shock does that to people. It freezes them in place while their minds try to understand what they have seen. But then the reactions came. Fast and loud, and from every corner of known space. The Scythian Empire was furious. Ambassador Keth demanded punishment. He demanded war. He demanded that the human captain be executed for murder. No one listened. The footage from the Grand Chamber had spread everywhere. Billions of beings watched a Scythian commander strike down a human child for the crime of saying hello. Then they watched that same commander break and beg, and die at the hands of the child's father. Some species called it barbaric. They said humans were exactly the monsters everyone feared. They said this proved that Deathworlders could never be part of civilized society, but many more saw something else. They saw a father protecting his child. They saw justice served when the council failed to serve it. They saw a species that would never back down, never give up, never let harm to their families go unanswered. For the first time, many aliens began to understand humans, not as animals, not as monsters, but as something far more dangerous, a species that loved fiercely and protected absolutely. The Scythians threatened to leave the Galactic Union. They prepared their fleets. They made speeches about human aggression and galactic stability. Then they discovered something troubling. No other species would support them. Counselor Brema V. Irani spoke publicly. Commander Velises attacked a child. She was found guilty by the council. She was given a punishment so light it was an insult. The human father did what any parent would do, what any parent should do. His soft voice carried across millions of worlds. If the Scythians want war over this, they will fight alone. Other species agreed. Some quietly, some loudly. The message was clear. The Scythians had been wrong. The human had been right. Slowly, carefully, the Scythian Empire backed down. There would be no war. There would be no punishment. The matter was closed. On Orion Gate, Captain Taiho sat in the medical bay of the Iron Will. Dr. Sujin was treating the wounds he had received in the fight. The cuts were not deep, but they needed proper care. "You should rest," Sujin said as she worked. "Your body has been through a lot. I'm fine. You're stubborn." "Yes." She finished bandaging his shoulder and stepped back. "Captain, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Were you afraid?" "When you faced her?" Taiho was quiet for a moment. "No, I was not afraid. What were you then?" He looked toward the door that led to Hannah's room. Angry, focused, certain, paused. "When someone hurts your child, there is no room for fear. Only purpose." Sujin nodded slowly. "I understand," Taiho said gently. "I hope you never have to understand. Truly." Lieutenant Minho appeared in the doorway. "Captain, you have a visitor. Counselor Brem of the Irani." Taiho stood and walked to the ship's small meeting room. Counselor Brem was waiting there, a tall, thin being with blue-green skin and large dark eyes that seemed to hold the depth of oceans. Captain Taiho Brem said, "Thank you for seeing me, Counselor. How can I help you?" Brem made a gesture that might have been a smile. "I came to thank you. Not for the violence. I do not celebrate death. But for reminding the Council that laws must have teeth, that justice cannot be sacrificed for convenience. I did not do it for the Council. I know. That is why it mattered." Brem reached into his robe and removed something small, a tiny figure made of blue crystal, shaped like a sea creature from his homeworld. "For your daughter," he said, "a small gift. My people believe it brings protection and peace." Taiho took the figure carefully. "Thank you, Counselor. She will treasure it." Brem nodded. "The Irani will remember this day, Captain. We will remember that humans protect their own. It is a good thing to remember." After Brem left, Taiho went to Hannah's room. She was awake, sitting up in bed, looking out the small window at the stars. The bandages on her face were smaller now. The wounds were healing. "Appa," she said when he entered. Her voice was still quiet, but stronger than before. "Hello, little one." "Little one," he sat on the edge of her bed and showed her the crystal figure. "A gift for you." "From a friend?" Hannah took it with careful hands. Her eyes went wide. "It's beautiful. What is it?" "A creature from another world. It is supposed to bring protection and peace." She held it up to the light, watching the way it sparkled. "I like it. I thought you would." Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question Taiho had been waiting for. "Appa, is the bug lady gone?" "Yes, Hannah. She is gone forever." "Forever." Hannah nodded slowly. She did not ask how. Perhaps she knew. Perhaps she did not want to know. Either way, she accepted his answer. "Appa, the aliens on the station, they kept looking at me. At us, they seemed scared. They were why? We didn't do anything bad." Taiho took a deep breath. "How do you explain the universe to a child? How do you explain fear and violence and the complicated ways that species view each other? They were scared because we are different, Hannah. We come from a place they do not understand. We are strong in ways they are not. And some of them," he paused, "some of them just learn that we protect our families no matter what. That scared them too." Hannah thought about this. Is it bad that they're scared of us? Sometimes fear is bad. Sometimes it keeps people from being friends. But sometimes, he looked out at the stars. Sometimes fear is just respect that does not know what to call itself yet. Maybe one day, they will not be scared anymore. Maybe they will just understand. Understand what? That we are not monsters. We are just people who love very much and fight very hard for the things we love. Hannah leaned against her father's side. He put his arm around her, careful not to touch her bandages. "Are we going home now?" she asked. "Yes. Soon, other ships from Earth are coming to fly with us. Why? Because we are family. All of us. And family stays together." The Iron Will left Orion Gate 2 days later. 4 other human ships flew alongside Itan Escort of Solidarity. A message to the galaxy. As they entered hyperspace, Hannah sat beside her father on the bridge. She held the crystal figure in one hand and watched the stars stretch into lines of light. "Appa." "Yes, little one. Why are aliens scared of us?" Taiho looked at his daughter, at her healing face, at her bright eyes, at the strength that was already growing inside her. He thought about everything that had happened. About the cruelty of Velas's. About the failure of the Council. About the moment he had stood in that chamber and shown the galaxy what a human was willing to do for family. He thought about Earth. About the storms and earthquakes and predators. About the millions of years of struggle that had shaped humanity into what it was. About the love and loss and determination that burned in every human heart. And he smiled, because we are from Earth, little one. And Earth does not raise its children to be victims. Hannah smiled back. She did not fully understand, not yet. But she would. Someday, for now, she was safe. She was loved. She was going home, and somewhere out in the galaxy. Billions of beings were learning a new truth about the strange creatures, called humans. They were not monsters. They were not animals. They were parents, and siblings, and children, and friends, and they would burn down the stars themselves before they let anyone hurt their family. The galaxy was beginning to understand. It was about time.